Okay, good morning, everyone. Happy Monday. I hope y'all are all enjoying Mercury retrograde as much as I am. And we're just going to enjoy today because I've got a really special guest for you. She is an American-born author. Her name is Berger. She lives in Copenhagen, so she's coming from to us today from across the pond. She's written many books, and I've actually interviewed her quite a few times in the past. She's got a new book out. The book is called Find and Follow Your Inner Compass. Welcome, Barbara.
Hi, thank you so much for inviting me. I'm so thrilled to be here again, to talk to you again. You have such good energy.
Thank you. It is my pleasure. It is my pleasure. So what led you to write this new book?
Well, as you know, I've written many books, and all my books are basically about self-empowerment. And so I discovered what I find to be one of the ultimate self-empowerment tools, and that is that each one of us, you, me, and every single living human being, we all have what I call an inner compass. And this inner compass is our direct connection to the God force, to the great universal intelligence that created all of life and that created you and me and everyone else. And the thing that's so cool about having an inner compass is that it's our personal link. It's our personal connection to the God force. And it's always giving us reliable information and guidance about whether or not we are actually in harmony with who we truly are and with the greater intelligence, or if we're off course. And this inner compass does it by means of our emotions. So I have discovered that our emotions are actually so significant. They are actually signals from the great universal intelligence, which are telling us whether we're on course or off course. And they do, the emotions tell us by means of whether the emotions are good feeling emotions or not. So in other words, the better you feel, the more joy, enthusiasm, passion you feel, you're really getting a signal from the great universal intelligence that you are in alignment with your true self.
You know, one of the things that I find really interesting about that is how the powers that be tried to move us off of that direction. You know, because back in the 70s, it was like, okay, if it feels good, do it. And then that got just completely squashed by that's hedonistic, and that's this, and that's that, and that's the other. And we quit following our inner compass because it wasn't popular, right?
Well, I think that, you're spot on. I mean, why is it so important that we talk about this? Why is it so important that we're aware of this? Why is it so important that we keep reminding ourselves about this? Is because we have been programmed to please others, to think about others. We have lost the ability to stay in contact with our own inner guidance. And it causes us endless troubles and despair and confusion. And I would say I was really motivated to write this book right now because I don't know if you know, but I work as a coach and a therapist every day. So I talk to people every single day. And people, of course, come to me because they're in crisis, or they feel they can't figure out what the right thing for them to do is, or so on. And I think that things have gotten worse because of social media, and because we're so much online, and because, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, we are constantly being bombarded from everything around us all the time with what other people think, what other people are doing, how they, so we're so outer focused that we really have lost touch with our inner guidance.
Exactly. So how can we learn to find it and listen to it? How can we check in with our inner compass?
Well, I suggest, first of all, I mean, as I say in the book, we have to become aware of this mechanism. We have to become aware, because we all know we have emotions. That's not any news, but this, to realize and to think about the significance of our emotions. I think that's actually the new thing in my book, that not only do we have emotions, but they are giving us valuable information. They are telling us, it's sort of, that's why I call it a compass. It's like the north-south thing. When you're in alignment with you could say your higher self, your true self, whatever you want to call it, the compass is pointing north and you feel good. That's how the emotions let you know. You feel joy, passion, love, and so on. And when you feel discomfort, when you feel anxiety or frustration or distress or whatever, they are signals from within. So in other words, these emotions are significant. They're telling you that you are out of alignment with your true self. So first of all, before we can even use this mechanism more effectively, we have to be aware of the fact that we have it. So first of all, to understand the mechanism and to realize that that in itself, awareness, as you know, is the key to everything. I mean, if we're not aware, we're just unconscious and we can't do anything about it. So first of all, awareness, but then to make it a sort of part of your daily practice, a mindfulness practice, to actually take the time to take a breath and go within and ask yourself, I'm in this situation, or I'm together with this person, or I'm trying to make this decision. How does it actually feel? How do I actually feel about doing this or saying this, or about what has been said, or about the advice that I've been given? So I would say that that's the first step, to first of all be aware, and then to start to actually tune in this way.
Yeah, I think probably each of us does it a little bit differently.
Yeah.
I find that because I do that a lot.
I know you do.
But I find that a lot of times when I just intend to check in, I don't necessarily get the clarity that I do if I intend to check in and then I write it down.
Okay, well, that's a very good practice. A very good practice. I think that the other thing that I have noticed when I coach people and we talk about it, when I give people this exercise, most of them come back with this sort of the shocking news that they didn't realize that when they tried to figure out how they felt, that immediately they would run off and think about, oh, what will my mother say, or what will my boyfriend say, or what will my sister say, or what will my girlfriend say? That we run so quickly to what I call outer referral. In other words, that we want to know, how will this affect them? What will they think of me? And so part of my sort of basic exercise is that when you become aware of that, when you become aware of the fact that you're actually not here with yourself, but that you're thinking about other people's opinions, that you try to drop it immediately, just as part of the exercise, and try to come home to yourself.
Absolutely. Because, it sounds kind of callous to say, but the truth is that what somebody else thinks or feels or reacts really doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's really radical, isn't it?
It is. I mean, I was just going through this exercise last night in preparation for our discussion today. And there was a particular instance, and I started, I was asking for clarity, and I went in and I wanted to see how I felt about it, and didn't get clear. And so I started writing. I said, I really don't know how I feel about this. But I started writing and blah, blah, blah. And then I had to go back and cross that out because I did know exactly how I felt. And it was not in alignment with my truth. And yeah, and I had put other things in front of me and my joy. And yeah.
That's really powerful. Thank you for sharing that. I think the other thing that I've discovered too, but you're sort of touching on that, and that is sometimes when I suggest this exercise to people, they'll sort of they'll turn very pale almost immediately, because it's like the thought, if I really am honest and if I really, get in touch with how I feel, I have to act immediately on it. And so and that can be kind of anxiety provoking. And so I always say to people, well, just sort of start easy and just do it for yourself. You don't have to think, okay, if I'm really honest about how I feel, then I have to take immediate action. Just sort of gradually let yourself sort of into, okay, as you just said, that when you actually went into it, you knew exactly how you felt.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's not a secret. We do know how we feel if we let ourselves go there.
And I think your advice about moving into it slowly gives you the opportunity to get more clarity. I mean, so you might realize that, whoa, this relationship isn't working. But that doesn't mean you need to immediately call up a lawyer and file for divorce.
Exactly. So that's exactly what I'm trying to say. Again, we don't have to, but because the other thing is, because, again, the more new this is for you, the more anxiety you feel about it, it's also a sign that you've been neglecting this for a long time. So we need to sort of ease into it. The other thing I noticed that's really, really interesting, especially in terms of relationships, I've discovered that someone who's come to me because they have a crisis in the relationship, if I ask them the simple question, well, let's just, you don't have to do anything, but let's just go back in time. So if you know that you have a very strong feeling of discomfort right now, that you're really getting a no from your InnerCompass, as an experiment, try to go back in time and identify, when did the first no actually arise? And everyone always says immediately, oh, it was a long time ago. But we didn't listen.
Yeah, it's interesting because, one of the things I do in my coaching work is to remind people that they need to tell the truth quickly. And it saves you a lot of angst in the long run if you really get to the core of the truth quickly. I mean, just this past week, my oldest granddaughter is turning 14 on Sunday. And so I'd made arrangements to go down to Orlando to spend, the birthday weekend with her. And she was like good with that. She really wanted me to come because she wasn't going to celebrate her birthday for another couple of weeks, actually, with her friends. And then during the course of the week, as teenagers do, she and her friends cooked up plans, which, was like, ooh, wait a minute, Grandma Jeannie's coming. Oh no, what do I do? And she basically locked herself in her room and she was crying and wouldn't come out because she was afraid that it was going to hurt me, and she didn't want to hurt my feelings. She didn't want me to be mad at her. And she was like making stuff up about my reaction.
Right.
When, as soon as I found out about it, because her dad called me, I was like, whoa, you need to go out and play with her friends, and I'm happy about that. And I'll come down after Christmas or whatever, So she created for herself a whole bunch of misery, maybe only just a day or so of it. I'm not sure exactly how long, but it was a day or so of not joy.
Well, I guess that's part two of this new book that I wrote it really is dealing with what you're talking about now, that we often don't follow our inner guidance because we're afraid of the disapproval of other people. So this fear, because that's also what often comes up when I coach people, that people actually get in touch with how they feel and, want to make a decision, for example, like your granddaughter, that we're so afraid that other people will disapprove. And then we also don't have good communication skills in terms of how can we best take care of our own interests and be respectful and loving to the people around us at the same time. So I actually have dedicated the second half of my book to good communication skills, assertiveness training. How can we both honor our own truth and deal respectfully with the rest of the world? So it is complicated.
Yeah, it is.
It really is, and it's very challenging, as you know.
And I think none of us really wants to hurt anyone else. Well, maybe every once in a while we might, like, I want to rip his little head off. But
I think that actually I try to deal with that too in the second part of the book, that in fact that each one of us is living in our own mental universe, that each one of us is reacting and interpreting the events around us based on our programming, our background, our belief systems. And so the same situation, for example, your granddaughter and the birthday, there are a multitude of ways one could react to it. I mean, you could be angry, you could be relieved, you could be disappointed, you could be, you could be accepting. So we cannot get inside the head of another human being and control their reaction. The only thing we can control or try to control is our own respectful communications to another person. So if I want to communicate to someone that I have a different choice than they think is the correct choice for me, I'm not really responsible for their reaction. I'm really only responsible for my right to be me and my respectful communication of my decisions. So that's also very, very tricky for a lot of us, that we believe somehow that other people's happiness depends on what we say, do, choose, or whatever. And it doesn't work like that. We're not.
No, I mean, that's part of this programming, because I think so many of us have gotten caught up over time in codependent relationships where we're expected to make somebody else happy and we expect them to make us happy. And it never works.
Well, it doesn't work also because reality, it doesn't match reality. And the reality is that each one of us is a separate creation of the great universal intelligence, and that we, each one of us, life is a subjective experience. So we, again, please don't misunderstand what I'm saying. I'm not saying that we shouldn't treat our fellow human beings with respect, and that we shouldn't be polite, and that we shouldn't be kind. And again, I'm not saying anything, but if we are offering or sacrificing our own integrity and our own alignment with the God force to please someone, in other words, I'm really talking about people pleasing, then it's problematic again. So in other words, we're not responsible for another person's experience in the sense, because we can't control it.
Right.
So the whole idea, as you say, the whole codependent, dysfunctional type of relationship thing is actually confusion about the nature of this thing called life.
Yeah.
And sure. the other thing that is also so important to remember in terms of this and the inner compass and following your guidance is that we're all, as you say all the time, we're all evolving souls. We're all awakening souls, and we're at different stages of awakening. We're I mean, again, all you have to do is look around. We really are, the diversity is just amazing, and we're all so different, but we're also at different stages of our evolutionary development. So it's not possible to say, there's one right answer or one right solution, because it depends on who you are, where your soul journey is leading you, what it is you're supposed to. I mean, there's just so many factors involved.
Right. And so much of your work, as I perceive it, really has to do with helping all of us to figure out what is joy and staying in that, and I think the last time I interviewed you was about your book about the awakening human, and which talks about this evolution of the soul. So people, it's not just this book that you might want to read, which is Find and Follow Your Inner Compass, but you might just want to check out Barbara's website and all of her other books, because they build on each other.
They do.
I forgot to mention your website at the beginning of the show. It's Beam Team, www.beamteam.com.
Thank you. Yes, Beam Team. We're here to beam you up.
Yeah, exactly.
And actually, I like now that you mentioned the website, I'm giving away at the moment a free ebook called the Mental Laws, The Way the Mind Works, which is a short introduction to my work and about the evolving consciousness. So if you're interested, go into beamteam.com, and it says it on the front page how to get the free ebook. That would be my gift to you.
Oh, fantastic. I'm going to go do that as soon as we get off the air, because that sounds wonderful. Wow. Yeah. So I think, really when we begin to follow that inner compass and get in alignment with our truth, we can't help but have more joy in our life. Am I right there?
Oh, absolutely. Well, again, if we go back to the mechanism of the inner compass, the feeling of joy is when you're in alignment, you do feel joy. Because, I mean, again, what is the God force. I mean, we're talking about divine love. We're talking about, the greatest power of all. So that when we feel that we're in alignment with the God force, I mean, isn't that what it's all about? So again, so love, joy, reverence for life, gratitude. Just think about when you feel gratitude. Your heart is singing. You wake up in the morning. You have so much to be thankful for. You can see, you can hear, you can walk, you can talk, you can love, you can sing, you can dance. I mean, that is, joy. I mean, that is alignment with truth, because that's our true nature.
Yeah. And, one of the things, and you talked about this already, but one of the things that really, I think, skews us on our compass is when we're looking in any other direction except that direction for anything.
Right.
Be it love, be it support, be it acknowledgement. We have to do it there.
I totally agree. And in other words, it doesn't mean that we can't have wonderful, loving relationships with other human beings. Of course we can. But it's the dependency on love and approval from outside of ourselves that's the dysfunctional part. So in other words, it's an enhancement, of course. Two or more people in alignment, what fun. Right. But when we become dependent on that, and so dependent on the outer that we sacrifice the inner alignment, that's again where it gets to be so tricky. And there's, again, most of us to some degree are doing that. I mean, if we're honest with ourselves, again, it's an everyday balancing act.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. In fact, I caught myself just yesterday realizing how much I was in judgment about another situation. And the truth was that this person that I was in judgment about was just mirroring to me stuff, so bless their heart. That's what we say here in the South. Every time you just slam somebody, it's like, oh yeah, bless their heart.
Well, I guess, again, if we go back to healthy boundaries in terms of this, that if we understand that we cannot possibly get inside another human being and know where they are in their evolution and what is, the highest good for them in any moment, then the whole idea about, wanting either to give someone unasked for advice or someone giving us unasked for, it becomes completely ridiculous. We can see that it can't possibly work because we're not in a position to judge what's going on with another person. But the problem is this, in terms of boundary violations, is also comes up in terms of the InnerCompass, and sort of you could say that the most typical boundary violation that we're doing one way or the other with each other is that we're giving each other unasked for advice, or we're sort of putting ourselves in an I know better position. I know what's good for you, and you haven't even asked me. I mean, we're talking about how disrespectful can we be, or we're on the receiving end of someone knowing better than I do how I actually feel about something. When I say it like that, we can see it's completely ridiculous. It can't be possible. But until we become conscious of these mechanisms, we do it because we're all innocent kids here.
And I just thought about a metaphor while you were saying that, and compasses work because they align to magnetic north. Exactly. So when you do that to somebody else, it's almost like you're taking a magnet and holding it next to their compass and trying to force the needle of the compass to get in alignment with your what is your
exactly,
which is so wrong.
Yeah, it's definitely not a respectful way of treating our fellow human beings. In other words, if we really are honoring the divinity in everyone else, we can see that each one of us is a manifestation of this divinity, and that each one of us has just as much right as the other one to be here because we are all here.
Right.
You could say that the Declaration of Independence of the United States, that famous line.
Exactly.
We claim these truths to be self-evident.
Mhm.
So this, that all men and women are created equal, and that we're each one of us endowed by our Creator with certain inalienable rights, the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It doesn't say how to do it. It just,
No.
no, it doesn't. It doesn't outline how are we going to actually do that. So
Yeah. And one of those inalienable rights is the right to choose. It's
mm,
the right to have
mm,
free will, to
mhm,
do it right or to do it wrong, to let it hurt
exactly.
or to let it be enjoy. And that, and we can make that choice in every moment of
Mm,
every day, which is
mm.
pretty
And
freaking
and
amazing.
we get to live the consequences. That's also the way the system is set up. It's
Yeah.
it's very sort of self-correcting, right? I mean,
Uh-huh.
I always say that we're all on a learning curve, and that this adjustment that's going on all the time.
I
Uh,
know.
it's the feedback loop. But that's also the thing that's so interesting about the inner compass too. If you would say you go back to this signal that we're getting, the comfort, it feels good, or the discomfort, we're off course. The better you get at it, it's like the signal, the self-correcting mechanism, it becomes more and more subtle. You don't need to really wait until you hit the brick wall. You could
Mm.
listen to the discomfort a bit earlier in the process. So I encourage people, as I said before, that if you go back to a really terrible situation, you'll find that the first time you had to know, it was a long time ago.
Yeah.
So as we become aware of this self-correcting mechanism, the more we can read the signal, even when it's very subtle, then we can save ourselves a lot of heartache and aggravation.
That's a fact. That is a fact.
Yeah, right. Just think.
So this has been a phenomenal conversation. And
Mhm.
so viewers, make sure you check out Barbara's book, Find and Follow Your Inner Compass. Go to
Mhm.
her website and get this free book that she's offering you, www.beamteam.com.
Mhm.
And I'm really appreciative that you've taken the time out of your evening to join us here in our morning. To share this new book and check out all of Barbara's other books.
Yeah, I would say that you can also get them all on Amazon.
Yeah.
This is the new one, Find and Follow Your Inner Compass.
Yeah.
And The Awakening Human, we've actually talked, you and I both, about my book, The Awakening Human Being, which is about
Mhm.
a guide to the power of mind. And then the other one, Are You Happy Now? 10 Ways to Live a Happy Life. So these three books, now this is the third one, so thank you for having me.
Yay.
Uh,
Yay.
but they all deal with this awakening process, and as I said in the beginning, self-empowerment, and how can we be most in alignment, most true to who we really are. And again, the other thing that's so super cool about all this is that the more in alignment we are, the better we feel, the higher our frequency is, the more benefit we can be to the world and the people around us and our families and our friends. So because everyone that I work with and everyone I talk to, we all want to be of benefit to the world. We all want to contribute. So the better we feel, it's sort of like the prerequisite to be able to do some good around here. So
Exactly.
the joy and love, these are the high frequency vibrations. The impact of joy and love and kindness is just so amazing.
It is. It is. Well, thank you so much. And viewers, join me next week. My guest is going to be Olympia LaPointe. She's a rocket scientist, and she's been on the show before. But on next Monday's show, she's going to talk about how to interpret your dreams, because that's one of the things that she's fascinated with. So join us, and that will be our last show for 2017. We're going to take a little Christmas, New Year break, and then we'll start back up again in January. And I've got a full plate of fantastic authors to share with you. So until next week, remember, people who take responsibility for their lives create the reality they desire. Ciao.